tapasaucham daya satyam iti padha krite krita adharmang saistayo bhagna smaya sangamadaistava tapasaucham daya satyam iti padha krite krita adharmang saistayo bhagna smaya sangamadaistava
tapasaucham daya
satyam iti pada krite krita adharmang saistayo bhagna smaya sangamadaistava tapasaucham daya satyam iti pada krite krita adharmang saistayo bhagna
smaya sangamadaistava
tapa austerity, saucham cleanliness, daya mercy, satyam truthfulness, iti thus, pada legs, krite in the age of satya, krita established, adharma irreligiosity, angsai by the parts, chaya three combined, bhagna broken, smaya pride, sangha too much association with women, madai intoxication, tava your translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your four legs were established by the four principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that three of your legs are broken due to rampant irreligion in the form of pride, lust for women, and intoxication. Purport. The deluding energy or material nature can act upon the living beings proportionately in terms of the living beings falling prey to the deluding attraction of Maya. Like last night, I asked a question to Vaisesika Maharaj about how, we're conditioned souls. And we have this mind, which Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a non-devotee. So who's praying to the Lord? So he kindly said, well, you're just acting like, you're not a conditioned soul. I wish that were true. he was very kind. But, so I was thinking about that this morning. And just like it says here, proportionately, in terms of living beings falling prey to, so proportionally, the more we're thinking of Krishna, the more we'll have an inclination to pray to Krishna for purification. And the more we're in Maya, the more that inclination won't be there. So there's that desire in us to serve Krishna, but still there's some material desire there. Yeah. And for some, there's a lot of desire to serve Krishna and very little Maya. And some, there's a lot of Maya, there's no Krishna, like atheists. So proportionally according to our desire. So sometimes there's little desire to serve Krishna, big desire to be Krishna. And sometimes there's a big desire to serve Krishna, but there's some condition there. So it's different with everybody. So that both desires are there. Yeah. So we're trying to get free of all that Maya, yeah, by the process of Krishna consciousness. And when we do reach that stage where it's just Krishna, then hallelujah. that'll be a very auspicious period in our life when we just want to serve Krishna. Moths are captivated by the glaring brightness of light, and thus they become prey to the fire. Similarly, the deluding energy is always captivating the conditioned souls to become prey to the fire of delusion. And the Vedic scriptures warn the conditioned soul not to become prey to delusion, but to get rid of it. So what is the main delusion in the material world? The main attraction? Women, yeah. And for women, men, yeah. Yeah. So that's the fire. Yeah, that's like Prabhupada gives the example here of the moth who's attracted to the fire, and he goes in. It causes it's death for the moth. So the more we're in this illusion that I'm a man, that's a woman, and I can enjoy that woman, then we're of the moth mentality, and we enter into this illusion. It causes so much havoc. Ato griyak setu satapta vitar janashamo hoyam hamameti. Yeah, the basic principle of material existence is attraction between male and female. And on the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts, one becomes very attached to home, to land, to wealth, to relatives, and just increases one's illusion. It becomes very, just bewildered, just thinks in terms of I and mine. Yeah. And it just becomes very chaotic. It's interesting. Somewhere I read, Prabhupada sometimes he would speak of Isaac Newton. He was actually a humble person. He said, all the knowledge I have is just like a grain of sand on the ocean. Very little. But he's so respected as an intelligent person. But he is just a grain of sand that I've collected. And someone asked him, so what would you say is your greatest achievement in your life? You know what he said? He said that I was celibate throughout my life. Yeah. He was a monk at the end of his life also. He was very religious. Yeah, he was celibate throughout his life. Brahmachari. That's good, huh? So he was intelligent in more ways than one, not just materially but spiritually. The Vedas warn us to go not to the darkness of ignorance, but to the regressive path of light. Tamasima jyotirgama. Don't stay in the darkness, but go to the light. In this material world, there's a lot of darkness. Yeah. Although the sun comes out, still there's a lot of darkness. And where is the darkness? The darkness is in people's consciousness. Yeah. They're in the darkness is there. They're in this illusion that I'm this body, that I'm the enjoyer, that I'm the proprietor. Yeah. So this is the darkness. And we are also in that darkness. Now we're trying to come to the light, that we're servants of Krishna, eternal servants of Krishna. And Krishna, he's the master. And the more we understand this, the more we attain the reality that we're spirit souls and we can reach that highest destination. Mrituma amritogama. That means that why stay in this place where you accept body after body after body after body and suffer and suffer and suffer? Better go to the spiritual world where you get a spiritual body that doesn't get old, doesn't get diseased. Pure body, pure mind. How nice, then. And where everybody has pure consciousness, everybody has a spiritual body. That's the place to be. And Krishna, he's inviting us, Prabhupada's inviting us to this place where we get a spiritual body. Wouldn't that be cool? A spiritual body doesn't get old. Like this body's getting, I'm experiencing the old age, yeah. Getting older and all kinds of things are happening. Yeah. But we have a bright future if we just stick. If we stick to the path, we stick on the journey, then we have a very bright future. The Lord himself also warns that the deluding power of material energy is too powerful to overcome. But one who completely surrenders unto the Lord can easily do so. What's the verse? Huh? No. Daivihesa ganamai mama maya mama pajante. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. Radha Swami said, that's an understatement. It's very, very, very difficult to overcome. But if we surrender to Krishna, well, that's a tough one too. Then it's very easy. We just gotta surrender to Krishna. But we're getting a lot of help around here. By Sesagam Maharaj, and so many devotees are visiting. Amazing. We have very devoted people. Other devoted people, they come. You have so many devotees here, so they like to come. Good. But to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is also not very easy. Such surrender is possible by persons of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So these, just like truthfulness. Which one of the four regular principles is that? Gambling. Mercy. Meat eating. Cleanliness. Well, Prabhupada says in different places, but he made it. What do you have? What's that? He says it in both ways. But if you think about it, what is the greatest austerity? Yeah, to be free from the sex desire. That's the. I mean, cleanliness. I mean, that's not. It's not that illicit sex is. I mean, of course, it's not clean, but it's not. But it's very austere. To refrain from illicit sex is very austere, and therefore, so many people in our society they gave up Krishna consciousness. They couldn't do it. We never. I mean, I don't know of one. I mean, I've been around this movement for a long time. I don't know of one person that left because I just had to take intoxication. Yeah. It's not that austere. To give up intoxication is not that austere. But to give up illicit sex, very difficult. To give up sex in general, it's very difficult. And, just like Radha Swami was telling me that they got a pretty serious group of devotees there in Chowpatty. But generally it was the men that would approach the women for illicit sex. They're married. So he told me that. Oh, so it's difficult, very difficult. Whether one is married or not married, it's a natural desire of the body, but it's not a natural desire of the soul, right? So, but cleanliness, by intoxication, people become very dirty, inside and outside. Yeah. These four principles of advanced civilization were remarkable features in the age of Satya Yuga. In that age, every human being was practically a qualified Brahmana of the highest order, and in the social orders of life, they were all Paramahamsas, or the topmost in the renounced order. By cultural standing, the human beings were not at all subjected to the deluding energy. Imagine that, practically no Maya, everybody just Krishna conscious. What a nice age, huh? But it's interesting that if we chant Hare Krishna in the age of Kali, if we read Srimad Bhagavatam, read Bhagavad Gita, and follow the teachings, then we're not in Kali Yuga, we're in Satya Yuga. So this little apartment is part of Satya Yuga here. Because we're all, to some degree, we're trying to follow Krishna's teachings, trying to follow Prabhupada's teachings. So this is a little oasis in Kali Yuga. Actually, all our temples all over the world, devotees are strictly practicing. And so it's little parts of Satya Yuga. On the other hand, in Satya Yuga, if people aren't engaged in devotional service, Kali Yuga. By cultural standing, the human beings were not at all subjected to deluding energy. Such strong men of character were competent enough to get away from the clutches of Maya. But gradually, as the basic principles of Brahminical culture, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, became curtailed by proportionate development of pride, attachment for women, and intoxication, the path of salvation or the path of transcendental bliss retreated far, far away from human society. With the progression of the age of Kali, people are becoming very proud and attached to women and intoxication. In what was it, in the 20s, they had 13 years where the whole country was dry. You couldn't buy alcohol. Yeah. And, but they were, it's Kali Yuga, they couldn't handle that. There was a lot of called bootlegging. You ever heard of bootlegging? Yeah, that's where they make their own. And they would have, they would have these places that were camouflage. You couldn't tell that it was a bar, but there's so people got found out, and you go in there, and they're big parties, huge parties in these little factory rooms and stuff, So it became a big thing. So eventually, the government thought, we're losing tax money by them, so they put it back on. And anyway, people are still getting drunk and taking all kinds of intoxication. 13 years. By the influence of the age of Kali, even a pauper is proud of his penny. Prabhupada was talking about this, and he said he was in the Howrah station in Calcutta, and he saw one person. He was carrying a pile of wood, it was burnt wood, and Prabhupada could see that he was proud that he had this. He had this possession. It's like pauper is proud of his penny, whatever. Burnt wood, I got something though. By the influence of the age of Kali, even a pauper is proud of his penny. The women are always dressed in an overly attractive fashion to victimize the minds of men, and the man is addicted to drinking wine, smoking, drinking tea, and chewing tobacco, etc. All these habits, or a so-called advancement of civilization, are the root causes of irreligiosities, and therefore it is not possible to check corruption, bribery, and nepotism. What's nepotism? Favoritism towards family members and friends, and yeah, unfortunately, that's there. But Prabhupada mentions here that the women they dress in a very scanty ways, but then they wonder why is there so much rape? Yeah, they're dressed in such provocative ways. I mean, sometimes it's like 95% naked. Just little parts covered. It's crazy. And then they wonder why there's so much rape. Hello, you agitate the minds of a man, and they lose control. Man cannot check all these evils simply by statutory acts and police vigilance, but he can cure the disease of the mind by the proper medicine, namely advocating the principles of Brahminical culture or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So this is the medicine. Nivartatar Bhagiyamana Bhavocha Trotamanoviva Kautama Shloka Gunanamana Pumang Virjeta Vinapasudna. That this age is a very degraded age, and the medicine in this age is to hear the glories of Krishna. And who will not want to hear the message of Krishna? Those who are killers of their own soul, or the butchers. And one say, well, wait a second, how can you be a killer of your own soul? The soul doesn't die. But one can become so covered, which is a lot of people are so covered, there's no understanding of the soul. So spiritually, they're practically dead because there's no understanding of their spiritual position. So this is the medicine, this hearing the glories of Krishna. But we have to do it properly. Just like Prabhupada gives the example in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita that one may get some medicine, but if he doesn't follow the instructions on the label of the bottle, then he won't get the desired result, right? So we're getting instructions in the form of the Vedas. We're getting instructions from the Guru, from the Acharya. So if we follow the instructions properly, then we'll get the result. The result we want is pure devotional service. Pure devotional service. So if we just follow, all we have to do is follow. Of course, that could be a little difficult too, because the mind wants to stray off. Wait, maybe it's a little better over there. Vivekananda Maharaj gives a nice example that you may go on a trip. You're driving on a trip, and the road you're on, it's got some potholes in it, and it's got weeds on the side, and it's just it's not very attractive and tough to drive. But then as you're driving, you see another road, it's nicely paved, and it's got rose bushes on both sides, and on the mediums, just a very beautiful road. So driving, hey, that's a better road over there. No, just take that road over there. So he gets on that road. He's nice, nice, smooth. Roses on it. It smells nice. But there's a problem. What's the problem?
Doesn't go to the destination.
He's going the wrong way. So the nirvati marg, or the passive renunciation, it's a little, a little bumpy, a little difficult, a little tough, but you're going the right way. And the path of pravati marg, sense gratification. Yeah, I like that. It looks a little smoother over there, more nicer over there. Don't go that way. Going the wrong way. So it's a little austere, not that austere. But if one follows this path of nirvati, the path of devotional service, very auspicious. And this path of devotional service, it's interesting that it starts out with the tongue. Atashi Krishna namadi, nabhavet grayamindra, sevan mukhi jivada, swayameva spratida. That one cannot understand Krishna with one's blunt material senses. But by rendering devotional service with our tongue, then Krishna becomes pleased and reveals himself. So what is the nature of the tongue? It's to vibrate. To vibrate, that's one of them, and to taste. Right? Generally, medicine doesn't taste very good, right? But prasadam is medicine, and it's tasty, right? I mean, hopefully, No, we got some pretty good cooks here, yeah. We got. You're all getting better, Practice makes perfect, right? So it's medicine and it's tasty, and also vibration, the hearing the nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the Ambala Purana, the spotless Purana, and the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad. We can just hear it over and over and over again. It's so nice. It doesn't get old. This is the nature of transcendental wisdom. It's like when I distribute books, I tell them this is timeless wisdom. You could read these books over and over and over again. Well, they never heard such a thing. Generally, you read a book once or twice, that's it. But not these books. Over and over and over again. Modern civilization and economic development are creating a new situation of poverty and scarcity with the result of blackmailing the consumer's commodities. If the leaders and the rich men of the society spend 50% of their accumulated wealth mercifully for the misled mass of people and educate them in God consciousness, the knowledge of Bhagavatam, certainly the age of Kali will be defeated in its attempt to entrap the conditioned souls. So Prabhupada says this is the key. The rich men should give 50% of their earnings to the spreading of Krishna consciousness. I only know of a few devotees that are doing 50%. You got to be making a lot of money to do 50%. You got to be a doctor or a lawyer. You got to be making a lot of money because that's extra, right? It's tough. Most devotees, it's very difficult. We must always remember that false pride or too high an estimation of one's own values of life, undue attachment to women or association with them, and intoxication will divert human civilization from the path of peace, however much the people clamor for peace in the world. It's interesting, Prabhupada says here that one shouldn't take oneself too seriously. This is a problem. We take ourselves too seriously sometimes. We think we're something big. But how big are we? Yeah. We can't even be seen with a microscope. Even the most powerful microscope in the world, we can't be seen. That's how small we are. But we got the big ego. We got the mind. It makes us think that we're something big. But we're small. So by this hearing, and eventually we get to realization. We're very small. And how big is Krishna? Krishna's big. Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu's got universes coming out of his pores. And he's just an expansion of Krishna. Imagine, Krishna's big time. Krishna is big time. Okay. The preaching of the Bhagavatam principles will automatically render all men austere, clean, both inside and outside, merciful to the suffering, and truthful in daily behavior. That's a nice sentence. The preaching of the Bhagavatam principles will automatically render all men austere, clean, both inside and outside, merciful to the suffering, and truthful in daily behavior. That is the way of correcting the flaws of human society, which are very prominently exhibited at the present moment. So, yeah, it's so important that we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and this helps us to be clean inside. If we're clean inside, then we can be clean outside. Just like sometimes I would go to door-to-door book distribution, and you look in the house, and it's just like unbelievable. I remember, believe it or not, there was one house. It was so dirty. There was trash piled up on each side, and there was a path where you could walk, and it was just garbage, just garbage. Just like I couldn't believe it. People live like that. So if they're dirty on the outside, they're dirty on the inside. Yeah. So, but if we're clean on the inside, then it's much more likely we'll be clean on the outside. And cleanliness is next to godliness. So yeah, the more we're clean, then we're also able to help others become clean. But if we're dirty, how are we gonna be merciful? If we're dirty on the inside, if we're dirty on the outside, cleanliness is so important. Yeah. Just like I can't stop glorifying Vaisheshika Maharaj. He's just he gave such a nice class last night. So nice. And every class is so nice. And therefore, because he's so clean on the inside, he's creating this nice community. Yeah. Also very clean. Right? Just like I was talking to Vaisheshika Maharaj when we were coming from the program in Sacramento, how the youth of the devotees, they're having a very difficult time being devotees as they go through college, and I was explaining it's a major problem all over. I see this so much, and he said, "Well, no, but not here." I said, "That's because you're here." Because you're here, you're giving guidance, and they're accepting and they're not accepting all the garbage in the universities. Yeah, so much garbage in the universities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said there's slaughterhouses for the soul. Yeah, slaughterhouses for the soul. Even there was one devotee. He was a nice devotee. He had nice parents, devotees also, and they came up here. He came up here to go to school, university, and the professor said, "Whatever you do, don't bring God in this room." And the devotee, he's a nice devotee. He's like, he was shocked. So he went back. He called his parents and said, "Mom, I couldn't believe it. It's first day in the class. The professor says like this." And so their parents made immediate arrangements to move up to the Bay Area just to protect them from these demons. So they moved up, and he lived with them instead of living in the dormitory. He lived with them, some associates. That was before this big ISV community came up. So they wanted to protect their sons. It's no God. Don't bring God in here. Rascals. Of course, in one sense, we could understand why that may be, because in Christianity, it's just all they have exposure to in religion, practically, here is Christianity. If you're sinful, you go to hell and you burn forever. what is that? Any intelligent person says, wait a second. Isn't he merciful? Yeah. And I mean, I'm actually, I was speaking to one Christian. She's a scientist, and she said she's a born again Christian. I said, you're not a born again Christian, because if you're a born again Christian, you wouldn't be speaking to me now. Born again Christians, they don't speak to anybody. They're just fanatics. They'll just, So I said, you're not a born again Christian. You're a nice Christian. So I said to her, I tried to read them because I grew up a Christian. I tried to read the Bible, but I'd get to like page 3 or 4, Genesis, and it's like, what's this? She said, go to Proverbs. Read Proverbs. So I thought, just a few days ago, I thought, well, let me look in Proverbs. There's not much there. Very little wisdom. You'd think Proverbs would be some wisdom. I mean, there are some similarities in Proverbs to what Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita. You've read Proverbs?
I haven't read.
Yeah, there's similarities, but there's nothing compared to the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, yeah. But yeah, and that's she said, you want to get something out of the Bible? That's it, Proverbs. I mean, come on, can't you do better than that? Anyway, so a couple minutes left. Any questions? From the internet or from the devotees here?
Oh, I like the analogy. The example you gave about Nivriti mark is austere. It is not too austere. Nivriti mark is rosy, that has delicate, but it will prolong our destination. It won't make it easy.
Yeah, when you go the wrong way, what do you got to do? You got to come back. It was just a waste of time. Yeah, you got to come back on that nice paved road, and then go back on the austere road to get your destination. But eventually, what's nice is it may be a little bumpy and a little not so attractive, but you keep going, and it becomes like a spiritual world. It gets better and better and better and better. In the beginning, it's a little rocky, but our future. As one very wealthy man in Miami, he said, the Hare Krishnas, the pay isn't much, but the retirement plan is out of this world. Spiritual world. So we have a good retirement plan. But just like a son of a very wealthy man, in order to get the inheritance, what did he have to do? Just stay alive. And don't upset the father. Sometimes they take you out of the will. That actually happened to Guru Prasad Swami. His father was a multimillionaire. And he said, any son of mine that don't chase women and drink is no son of mine. That was his proverb. Any son of mine that don't drink and don't chase women is no son of mine. Took him out of the well. And he didn't get anything of his father. It all went to the daughters, but the daughters gave him a house. So he's got a house in San Antonio. So Haribo. So he got something. He got some nice sisters. So they helped him out. So yeah, all we have to do is stay alive. Just chant and hear, and eventually, it works. We'll get purified and reach our destination. Okay, yeah.
So, Prabhu, we saw cleanliness as not having the illicit sex desire, but we've seen in many different classes that the illicit sex desire is not just a gross, but it's also an internal purification and cleanliness, which may be harder to achieve. So, how do we fast track or capitalize that process to purify ourselves internally of the desire for illicit sex? It could just be So the external manifestation would be to break the regulative principle as a gross break of all.
Yeah.
But internally also it's possible that it may be still present in some capacity.
Yeah.
So how do we extinguish that?
That's where it's there mostly internally. Well, we have to get the higher taste. You know, by hearing about Krishna, by chanting Krishna's names, we get a higher taste, and we have to also understand that this bodily attraction, it's just lust. Atmendri priti vantitari palikam krishnendri priti icha dari premana. That love means to engage our senses in the service of Krishna, pleasing the senses of Krishna. And lust means to try to satisfy our material senses. So there's a big difference. You know, there's like gold and iron, huge difference. You know, gold is so valuable. Iron is like, You know, it's not attractive, nor is it worth very much. But so love is there between the living entity and Krishna. This is the real thing. Coke is not the real thing. You know, they still have that advertisement, Coke. Coke, that used to be there for decades. That was the advertisement for Coke. Coke is the real thing. Maybe it's not there anymore. Oh, now that's the thing. Open a bottle of happiness. Open it. They found that they just put in Coke on batteries. It removes the what is it, the rust. So it's not a bottle of happiness. Yeah, it removes rust.
It's actually all of diabetes.
Oh yeah, you get diabetes also. Yeah, so much sugar. All these things, Pepsi, and all these soft drinks. So much sugar. It's horrible. Yeah. So yeah, we have to get the higher taste. And fortunately, we have examples of devotees that have the higher taste. You know, great devotees, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, you know, the 6 Goswamis, Prabhupada, you know, and so many contemporary devotees now, you know, they're getting the higher taste. Yeah, so stick with it, and we'll be good. Srila Prabhupada ki?
Jai.